Welcome to the Progtalks by the Progspace. Welcome to the Progtalks, an interview series by the Progspace where we will be talking to musicians in all corners of the progressive music scene. Welcome back to the Progtalks, everyone. Today, another amazing musician with me. This is Vince from Fractal Universe, and we're going to be discussing their upcoming album, The Impassable Horizon. Hi, Vince. Nice to have you on the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, when we're recording this, the album is still a few weeks out or a little bit out because it's going to be released on the 25th, right? But of course, people have already had the chance to listen to a few of the singles, Symmetrical Masquerade and A Clockwork Expectation have been out for a while with videos and everything. How have the response been to these early teasers for the album? Are you happy with it?
Absolutely. We've got really amazing responses so far. A lot of people were excited by the saxophone also on the first single.
Yeah.
And I haven't read many negative comments so far, although there are always a little bit of haters everywhere to be expected.
Yeah.
But, so far, everything is really positive. So I'm really happy.
And I guess when the band has, since its beginning, really been evolving and changing its sounds gradually a bit. And of course, you're going to have people, saying that they prefer the earlier stuff. But how does that affect you? Do you care about that or not really?
Well, actually, I'm pleased that people still enjoy the previous work. Actually, yeah. It's a compliment for us as a band, I think. And it's great that maybe people have some different favorite songs, favorite records or anything. So I'm quite happy if that happens.
It's all good then, right? So I want to go back to the beginning, the start of the band, because, you guys are quite well known, but there might be listeners or watchers that don't know you so well. So how and when did the band start out? Can you tell me a little bit about the early history of Fractal Universe? I believe I read that you've been around since 2013, and I know the first EP, Boundaries of Reality, was released in 2015. So how do you feel about that EP now looking back at it, and sort of how did Fractal Universe start?
So the band started out with just Hugo, the guitar player, and myself. In the beginning, it was just like a project to play in our bedrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
But it became a real band in late 2014 when we got joined by Clement, the drummer, and Valentin, the bass player.
Yeah.
And we've had the same lineup ever since. And so this first EP, Boundaries of Reality, was kind of a collection of material I wrote earlier in the 2012, even 13, 14 years of the band. And so these songs came together to make the first EP of the band. Looking back on it, I'm still happy with the songwriting overall. I think it's a good starting point for the band. What I would change though is the production, mostly because it was totally homemade and we didn't have a real drummer on the production. It was easy drummer and stuff. So that I think could have benefited from a major improvement. But apart from that, I think it's what got the band started. And we played a couple really cool shows with that record. And as I said, this is how Fractal Universe became a real band with the ambition of playing live, of making more releases and everything. So I can look back fondly on it.
Exactly. And I revisited it today before this interview, listened through the EP, and I agree. I think it holds up very well, and it's a nice snapshot of where you were when you started out as a band, right?
Totally.
Yeah, and you mentioned how you guys, it was first only you and the other guitarist, right? So how did you meet up with the rest of the band? How did they get involved in the beginning?
Well, Hugo and I have known each other since high school. We attended a lot of shows together. So this is how we met. And then we decided that we had similar music tastes and wanted to play together.
Yeah.
As for the other guys, Valentin and I went to Music Academy International, which is a music college in France, in Nancy. So we met there, and Clement and the rest of us met on some local gigs where we played with our respective bands. And so we had this idea of playing together, but it couldn't happen for like a year or so, because then Clement went away for his studies and Valentin went back to his former region.
Exactly.
But eventually everything fell into place and we managed to do this whole band.
Yeah, that's the age-old story of trying to make things work, and then everybody has their commitments, and then at the end you manage to get together and actually do stuff. And you guys have, like you mentioned, have had the same lineup since, so obviously it's working out well for you. I guess you guys work well together and tour well together. You enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, we are also very good friends, apart from being bandmates.
Yeah,
and I think that helps.
That helps.
And yeah, we have similar goals. I think we're all really wanting to see the band grow, to keep make music, and to do as much as we can, basically, to make the band evolve.
Yeah, I've heard Fractal Universe be described as tech death metal band by people or mentioned, in articles or whatever. Do you feel comfortable with that description, or how would you yourself categorize the music you're creating?
Well, first of all, I don't like the word technical death metal that much because, I don't like, I think, ranking or rating music by its technicality. I think it's good if you are a capable musician, but technique is only ever tools to create music. And so naming a genre after that is a bit weird to me. And as for the band, more specifically, I would rather say that we fit in maybe progressive death metal or progressive metal. But it's always hard, I think, to put names and tags on stuff. And it's always going to be a bit reductive, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right in that. Also, for someone who's a music journalist, or at least, like a amateur music journalist, having all these genres and tags is sort of helpful to help people find music they might enjoy. But at the same time, it can be very pigeonholing if you're gonna use that. But I agree with you. Progressive is maybe a better term than technical, but still you have sort of been lumped in with a lot of these other technical death metal bands, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I think we've been kind of put in the same box as many death metal bands, and that has made us play a lot of shows, for example, with bands like Cannibal Corpse or that kind of bands, which I think we have less in common than with the progressive metal genre in general. So maybe the word death metal is not that appropriate after all. Obviously, we have some extreme influences on our music, a lot of death metal influences, but I think there's more to it, and maybe the what's more is more important than the death metal part itself.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to that, but also, of course, the vocals, the fact that you're using harsh vocals or growls, I guess, makes people quickly lump you into sort of the death metal box, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that's definitely been a huge part of our sound, and it still is.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's not only that. So
yeah, well, I want to ask about that. The songwriting that Fractal Universe does, it's very layered, it's complex, but at the same time it seems to have a strong focus on melodies and all this nice mix. So how do you guys work when you create new music? Are you the kind of band who work in the rehearsal space together, or are you the kind of band who sends digital files back and forth and you sit in your own home studios? I know, of course, now during this period with the corona, a lot of bands who like to get together haven't had the chance, but before that, or in an ideal world, how do you guys work when creating music?
Well, actually, I'm responsible for like almost everything in terms of composition. And what I do is I work at home most of the time with like Guitar Pro and pre-productions, where I write out basically all the instruments and send over to the guys something that is pretty close actually to the end version of the song in terms of instrumentals. And what happens then is we discuss like daily details, arrangements, maybe some song structures sometimes. Yeah. And when everything is settled, we finally go and learn the songs and play them together in the rehearsal room. And then everything might evolve because we have a different feeling by playing the songs live. But usually it's pretty close. It ends up pretty close to the original pre-productions.
Yeah, I wonder then, has this been the way you've worked since the beginning, or has things changed along the way where you are now the sort of the main songwriter for the band?
No, it has always been quite that way. There hasn't been much change in the process. Maybe now the pre-productions are getting more and more detailed already, as opposed to rougher, maybe pre-productions in the beginning. Now I'm getting more confident also at producing music and arranging, adding layers and everything. So
of course,
that makes it able for me to give more detailed pre-productions to the guys already. I think that helps to really so that they understand the idea of the song as precisely as possible.
Well, I wonder then, you said that most of the music, when you send it to the rest of the band, it's more or less the final form for a lot of songs. But does it happen that the band comes with feedback that majorly changes something? Has that happened?
Yeah, that's happened actually one time, I think, where the band was not really sure about the song, and I ended up rewriting, keeping some ideas but completely rewriting it, and it ended up much better. But on other cases, it's mostly like little details. For example, this verse should be moved somewhere else, or little details like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's also nothing to be changed, though. It really depends.
And I guess also, like a drummer has like his own, expertise in drums and may have ideas, and a bass player maybe has ideas, for little details they can add or do. So I guess that's where the rest of the band comes in when we talk about shaping the music then.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try to make these really conscious choices. Like when we write, for example, out drum rolls or whatever, we try to find them to match the music as good as possible. So we might spend a lot of time in the studio or doing pre-productions working on all these little details together.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, the songs on the album, the last album, Rhizomes of Insanity, right? That was released in 2019. So the songs on this album, did you start writing them after that, or are there ideas that are older? What's the oldest and the newest stuff on the album?
Actually, our writing process is always kind of similar, where I start gathering new ideas around the time when we finish producing the one that is about to be released, basically. Because writing for me is kind of a process that spans over maybe a year or so, or even a little bit more sometimes. So basically, the first ideas for the Impassable Horizon started emerging, I think, in late 2018 already. With some songs. I don't remember the first ones that I came up with, but Symmetrical Masquerade, I think, was one of the first.
Yeah.
And the latest song that was finished, that's quite hard to remember. I think Clockwork Expectation was among the latest. And it was finished, I think, like a year later in late 2019 or something, in terms of the musical composition, at least.
So I'm guessing then that it's by the way you're describing it now, it sounds like it's not like you finish one song, like completely finish it and then move on to the next. You're working on several compositions at the same time. And that's why also it might be hard to say when was the last one finished or what was the earliest one to be finished, right? Or
Kind of. Yeah, I like to get myself some time to let the songs mature. Also, maybe I get some fresh ideas afterwards, or we get some ideas from discussing it with the rest of the band.
Yeah.
So, as you said, it's not a fixed process, and there are some little details that might change. Also in the mixing process, for example, where we decide to add some layers here and there, whatever. So I think it's never completely finished. Only when it finally ends up on the record,
album,
and even then, maybe some details change for live versions as well.
Exactly, and I'm actually going to come back to that, because that's kind of interesting with music that are as detailed and challenging as what you guys do. But I wanted to ask about the recording of the album. Then, what was the recording process like? Where did you record, and did you have someone aid you with production, mixing, mastering, that kind of stuff?
Well, for the first time, we recorded everything in our own studios. As you maybe know, Clement, our drummer, has his own professional recording studio called Boundless Productions, where basically he has a drum booth and a really professional environment where he also records for other bands, and other bands come to record.
I see.
For the first time, we tracked the drums there, which was really, really comfortable, because we could take 2 full days for the sound check, and trying out different cymbal sets, also different drum skins, and really took the time for the sound check.
Yeah.
And for the rest, we did it also in our own homes, basically. As you can see behind here, this is my little home studio where I track like the vocals, the guitars, and the saxophone. And as for the other guys, they did the same at home. Hugo tracked his solos at home, Valentin bass as well. And then we worked with our longtime producer, Flavien Morel, who is based in the same area as we are.
Yeah.
And who has been producing all our records since the beginning, except for the EP where he only did mastering. But I think, it's really comfortable working with him, because he knows everything about the band now. He knows what we want, how we operate. And it's very comfortable because I can be with him for the mixing sessions to really discuss all the little details together. And that made the whole process from start to finish really comfortable, because we are in a perfectly comfortable environment, I think.
I think that sounds, that's interesting to me, because of course, having the luxury of recording from home and, doing as many takes and as much experimentation as needed, it must be a nice feeling. But at the same time, I know a lot of bands are doing this now, where a lot of the musicians have their own home studios, but then they have to go into a studio to record the drums, because that setup is a bit more complex for someone to have at home. So it must have been a nice, like you say, experimenting, doing the different cymbal sets and everything. That must have been a great experience to also have that versatility with the drum recording.
Absolutely, because as you said, that's also what we did for previous recordings. Go to a studio to track the drums, and then track the rest at our own homes. And this time it was, as I said, we could take as much time as we needed. There was no pressure, no rent to pay. So amazing.
No time limit for you not seeing your money run away by the second if you want to do something different. So I understand. And it's, I want to say it's noticeable on the album, because it sounds like, to the last detail, it sounds like you guys have been thinking about this a lot, and so I that's noticeable, that you guys have spent a lot of time on this, and that you could do it exactly like you wanted to. We've talked a little bit about the musical side of the Impassable Horizon, but I'd love to talk a little bit about the themes and the lyrical side, because I know that you guys work with an external lyricist for a lot of the lyrics, right? So can you please tell me a little bit about that process, about this person who's writing lyrics? And
Absolutely. So we work with a close friend of mine who's called Arthur Massot. He's a direct doctor in psychology. So he's really passionate about these subjects. And he really brings something to the table, I think, in terms of lyrical quality, and he has a very fluid and poetic way of writing lyrics, I think. And so for that record, it is a concept record that talks about death, basically, and more specifically about how we human beings experience death, the perspective of death, the perspective that our life is finite and that one day it will end, and how, despite that, we manage to give it meaning, be it through spirituality, through art. There are a lot of different ways that people manage to find to get around that thought, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that very interesting. And also, the philosophical references to Heidegger, for instance, and his teachings and thoughts about death and how it sort of colors our entire lives, the fact that we are aware of our own mortality. So how do you proceed to bring such a deep concept into the music, into the lyrics, and also does it color the music in a way when you write the music?
Actually, it's mostly the other way around. Actually, how our collaboration happens is that I finish the pre-productions we discussed earlier, and I sent over the whole record, basically an instrumental version of it, to Arthur. And then we discuss themes. We discuss what ideas come to mind when listening to the music. And then he really immerses himself in the music and comes up with his own ideas. We discuss that all together, see how we can basically fit that into a whole concept that has a development. And we try to make that fit musically and lyrically. And then it's like a lot of back and forth exchanges with details in the lyrics and everything until everything lines up perfectly, music and lyrics.
Yeah, so
it's mostly the musical atmosphere, all the mood in the songs that influences the lyrical writing later on.
Exactly. So he's inspired by, the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts he gets when listening to the instrumental music, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for this record in particular, it might be more diverse. There is a lot more clean singing on it, but I still think it's pretty dark in terms of the overall mood. There are a lot of mysterious atmospheres and all of that. And I think this fits with the concept of death so well, because death is a big mystery, basically. And it's also like really ambivalent.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on something interesting there, because, of course, death doesn't only have to do with, brutality or aggression or whatever. It has a lot to do with melancholy and, sadness and, these feelings of loss, which isn't necessarily represented by, something that's fast and brutal or whatever. So in that way, I can see what you're saying, that the album is more diverse, means also that it's more in tune with the theme that you guys ended up on.
Mm-hmm. But as you said, death is not only something
aggressive or brutal,
dark.
Yeah.
And also, I think there is a lot of positiveness to be found in the idea of death. Maybe not in the fact of experiencing someone you know to die or whatever, but in the perspective that our time on Earth is basically limited, and that we have to make the best out of it, to find meaning to all of that. And that's actually a kind of uplifting perspective when you think about it.
I agree. That is a motivation for you, right? To make the most out of the time you have here, because like you said, with the theme, we are so aware that it is limited the time. So let's make the best out of it. I also want to ask about the cover art, which I really love. It's quite beautiful in a bit of an unsettling way. I was able to find out that the artist is called Shad. And also, there seem to be some links to the theme of the album. I seem to see a clock in there. And what can you tell me about the artwork?
Yeah, first of all, Shad has been the mastermind behind all our artworks since the beginning. So it's another long-term working relationship. And for this one, he really drew inspiration from the lyrics and from the music. And he tried in his work to picture like the immense diversity of death, basically all the possible meanings it could have. So you have that overall shape that is basically like a skull, which obviously represents death. Yeah. Then we have the clock. Obviously, you have also some little figures that represent the different phases of decaying, basically. And what's very interesting about this artwork as well is that it has a fractal structure. You can spot some little details. I think the clock, for example, you can spot it on different positions, getting smaller and smaller. And it's the same thing with the different people. You can spot them on different places of the artwork. So I think it's really cool, especially if you have it printed like on a vinyl or a poster, because you can really look at all these little details. And it's really amazing, I think, what he did there.
Yeah, I have to say, I love it. I've been looking at it, and it's like it's something that draws you in. And just like you say, this is something that, luckily, vinyl has become much more popular again. But to be able to sit down with an album cover like that, with a vinyl album in a bigger format, and really, listen to the music and enjoy the album cover as well, it's really nice. And well, you can tell that there's a lot of thought put into the albums, and this guy has been doing your covers since the beginning, right?
Yeah, since Boundaries of Reality.
Yeah,
and we have always operated the same way, sending him over the lyrics, the music, and also like an explanation of the concept of the record, so he really can get everything to line up with his own work.
I see. So a bit the same sort of process of working like you do with the lyricist, really. For
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that means you have a full product in a way, and it's something that's a piece of art that is really thought through in every end. If you are enjoying this interview, please head over to theprogspace.com for more reviews, articles, pictures and interviews, all about progressive music. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. theprogspace.com. I wanted to go back to something you mentioned in the beginning, about you now employing the saxophone on the Impassable Horizon. How did you pick up that instrument, and how did you decide to include the sound in Fractal Universe?
Well, actually, the sound was included on our previous records already. We've had Jørgen Munkeby from Shining to participate on the track Backwards Man. We also had Hugo's father, Jean-Marc Florimond, who played on the two records, actually, Engram of Decline and Rise of Insanity. So saxophone was always kind of a part of the band. But what happened is that 1.5 years ago, I decided to myself start playing the instrument, which was a dream that I had for a long time. And in the beginning, I did it like for fun. I didn't know what to expect, if I was going to like the instrument or not. But very quickly, I ended up really enjoying it and practicing every single day to get decent skills on it. And I quickly realized, and I think the other guys really pushed me to do that as well, that I could incorporate it into this record and also into our live shows. And since it had already worked so well with the previous guests who had featured, it happened really naturally, actually.
Yeah, I that was what I was gonna go on to, but of course you already answered it. The fact that the saxophone isn't like a brand new thing with your music, since you had Shining's Jørgen Munkeby, of course, doing some saxophone on a previous album, and also the dad of your guitarist adding some saxophone. So was that a big inspiration for you to? When you heard that addition to the album, was that a part of why you wanted to pick up the instrument?
Yeah, it played a huge part in it. But not only, I'm also a big fan of jazz and fusion, where obviously saxophone plays a huge part. It's like the king instrument of these genres. So
it's like the guitar in metal, yeah.
Absolutely. So the instrument always held a special place in my heart, I think. But yeah, hearing the contributions of our two guests previously really showed me the potential it had, basically.
How did you get in touch with Jørgen, by the way, and how did he agree to be on the album back then?
Well, actually, we just wrote him an email. We weren't sure what to expect or anything, but we just tried it out because we figured, it would be so cool to have a different instrument as a guest on the record. And he ended up really liking the song. And what's really funny is that he played on the song Backwards Man, and we had asked him to play like I think on just one section, which was like 20 or 30 seconds long, and he ended up doing like 3 times the length, going over all the upcoming parts. And he was like, keep what you like. And we kept everything because it was so mind-blowing. But he did a lot more than he was asked to do. So that's amazing.
I actually listened to that album and that song in particular earlier today as well, and I have to say that the saxophone part on that is quite amazing. So and then I was like, well, of course, I listened to that album before and there's saxophone on it, so I wanted to go back and check it out now that the saxophone is more prevalent on this new album. I wanted to ask about that, the fact that now you play the saxophone and you talked about playing it in a live setting. Are there any specific challenges that comes with that, integrating the saxophone in a live setting with such a, dense, complicated, layered sound? On the album, it's one thing, but, doing it live, does that come with its own challenges?
Well, in terms of the sound itself, I don't think it was a particularly big challenge because when I pick up the saxophone, I leave some space because there is only one guitar player left. So in terms of the whole sound balance and everything, it's quite well working, I think.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the challenges I was facing in the beginning, especially, it was like switching instruments and being in the exact right mindset in a matter of seconds, because the saxophone parts are usually like quite short, like 30 seconds ish. So if you don't manage to get the first few seconds right, it's really hard to catch up on that. But now we've had a couple of stage workshops where we basically worked on our stage show and everything. And it's become more natural to me, making the switch and everything. So now I really look forward to it.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting to see you perform with the saxophone live on stage once you get out and start doing shows now. So, but of course, you're first and foremost the guitarist and the vocalist for Fractal Universe. So, what kind of inspirations and influences do you have as a guitarist, and what musicians have informed the way you play, and also what are your inspirations as a vocalist?
Well, as for the guitar, there have been a lot along the way. I started the guitar at the age of 9, I think. In the beginning, I was influenced by guitarists like Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple, that kind of bands. Yeah. And I quickly switched to metal. And one guitar player that has influenced me a lot in my teenage years was Chuck Schuldiner from Death. And basically that whole early death metal scene with also bands like Cynic and Atheist, all that shaped basically my teenage years. And as for now, guitarists I really love, especially that influence a lot of my solo playing, are Per Nielsen from Scar Symmetry, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Or guitarists like Alan Holdsworth also. And there are so many, like Rick Graham also, who is an immensely talented guitar player. So there are really a lot of stuff. In terms of composition, I've been very influenced also by bands like Leprous or Meshuggah or all these kind of bands.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you asked also about the vocals.
Yes, so of course, yeah.
It's there are many singers I like, many singers I love, like Michael Ockerfeld from Opeth, Einar Solbeck from Leprous. So many singers I enjoy, but it's hard actually to replicate what they are doing because I have a bass voice, and actually it's really hard to find bass voices in the music I listen to. So it's sometimes a little bit frustrating to have to deal with your own vocal range when it's so different from the singers you love, and so you have to find your way around that and find your own ways of doing things and stuff. But these I just mentioned are definitely some of my favorites.
You're speaking my language, of course, when you are talking about bands like Death, Siddiq, Atheist, all these like earlier like progressive or technical death metal. And I do understand what you say about, that voice. And something that came to mind is Don Swann from Edge of Sanity, which is one of my favorite bands, and this guy has a very bassy voice and does both cleans and growls, so maybe that's something to he's someone that you can identify more with than a lot of these very sopranos or like operatic singers that have a higher register.
Yeah, definitely. But I find it hard to incorporate like a bass voice into such a dance music as metal, because usually in rock or metal, most of the time at least, the vocals sit like on top of the other instruments.
You're right.
And so the balance is really different when you have a lower voice, and that makes it that I end up most of the time always singing my higher register on the record, at least for lead vocals. And so it's quite a challenge.
And I guess that more bass voice also competes with a lot of the other instruments in that lower register, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think you would really need to make some space for the vocals in that case, maybe to have less dance guitar lines or anything. But so far, I've found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's often at the top of my register, so
so it's challenging, of course. Yeah, but now I'm looking forward to hearing like a bluesy. Next Fractal Universe album will be like a more bluesy, deep voice vocals. It's gonna be that would be interesting to hear. I wanted to ask about something a bit different, just because I find it interesting. You guys are, of course, active on social medias or whatever to promote your music, but I've seen you do a lot of Twitch stuff, and engaging with fans on Twitch. So, what is your thoughts on like social media to promote your music and to stay in touch with the fans in general, and the platform of Twitch? How did you start using that, and what's the benefits of it for you?
Well, for social media in general, I think nowadays it's really an extremely important part of a band, because it's, especially in times like these in the pandemic, it's our most direct and basically almost the only way to connect with fans.
Yes.
And although I'm not, I think if I wouldn't have the band, I wouldn't be like active on social media or anything. So it's really, I think, part of the job of having a band.
Exactly.
And as for Twitch, actually, we started this in the very first lockdown last year, because we thought it might be a great substitute for live shows and a great way to remain connected with people and to exchange with them. Like you can interact a lot in the chat, for example. And actually, I really enjoyed this. And we try to offer like a variety of contents, also play songs on Twitch that we would not be able to fit into a live set or something. Yeah. So that's something really, really interesting. You have to get the dust off of all of these old songs that you've played live only a couple of times. And it's a lot of fun.
And it's a place for the super fans to like engage with the band, right? And like you say, maybe get a taste of some of those, songs that you guys don't perform so often.
Absolutely. We have a core of super fans following us on Twitch that are basically there almost every time. And I think it has strengthened our relationship with them even more, because we talk to them on a weekly basis, and I think it really helps.
And I guess also a lot of these people that you have almost made like acquaintances with through your music now, through Twitch, they are going to be there on the front row when you guys go out and play again.
Yeah, I hope so. What's fun is that again, it gathers people from all around the world. So some people that are on almost every Twitch show have never seen the band live, have never met in person, and yet I have the feeling that I know them. So it's crazy.
Well, I guess that's something that we, that a lot of bands discovered through the pandemic is that, this online presence with doing stuff like Twitch or you putting concerts on YouTube or streaming means that you also reach out to an audience that may not be able to see you guys play live so often or at all if they live in parts of the world where concerts just aren't happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we have a streaming show planned as well with the release of the record. So I think this is going to be announced soon. But I think it's actually a good addition. And I hope this will not stop after this whole pandemic. All of these live stream concerts, because as you said, it's an opportunity for people all around the world to witness some kind of a live show, although it's not the same as being in a real concert or anything, but I still think it's a nice addition, and I hope this will continue after all of this. I'm fully in agreement with you. Us with the Progspace, we did 2 online shows, online festivals last year where we had so many great bands, do the festivals. And originally we were thinking that, this is something that we will do as a stopgap until people can actually go out and see shows again. But just like you say, I feel like it's not a replacement, it's a nice addition. And I guess it's a great way for people who aren't able to visit so many gigs and festivals also to, feel like they're part of something that's happening more or less, if not live, then at least an event that's happening live in a way. Yeah, and there have always been like shows on YouTube or on DVD and everything. It's just, I think, a different experience, but it's not better, not worse, just different mostly.
I agree. And the fact that you're joining up with other fans in the chat and there's discussion going on, you sort of feel like you're there or you're part of something intermediate while it's going on, I want to move on to your videos, because I was watching the video for, I think it's the Clockwork Expectation, which was shot in a remarkable place. I'm probably going to butcher this, because even if I live in France, my French is horrible. But Gouffre de Poudrey, is that it? Those caves?
Gouffre de Poudrey, yeah. Something like that. Yes. You got it pretty close, yeah.
I'm trying. But please tell me about the video and the experience of shooting in that amazing location.
Well, yeah, it was truly amazing. And actually, I visited this place when I was a teenager, I think. And already back then, I was amazed by this place, and never would have imagined that I would come there to to make some metal inside of it later on.
I guess we gotta say for the people watching that this is a large natural cave, right?
Yeah, it's the largest equipped cave in France, I think. So the largest that is possible for public to visit, like without any equipment or anything.
Exactly.
And so, basically we just wrote to them. Again, we didn't know what to expect, if they would completely reject the idea or anything, but they were kind of enthusiastic, and they didn't charge anything. It was like they were totally on board with everything we proposed. So that was pretty cool. And then the shooting itself took 2 days. The conditions were pretty extreme. Like it was 7 degrees Celsius. I think 90% of humidity. There were like hundreds of stairs where we had to carry the gear around and everything.
Yeah.
But it was magnificent. And we had this whole place for us alone, which is kind of amazing. For 2 days, we were alone with the team in that cave, making music. And whenever Clement, the drummer, would hit the drums, you would have like a reverb lasting for 10, 15 seconds, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It sounds like an amazing experience.
In the beginning, when we heard him play drums, we were like, how the hell are we going to be able to perform hearing what he's doing, But in the end, it worked out just fine, because we tried to mute the drums and everything so that
it was more manageable.
Yeah.
Well, the video is awesome, and for if you want to watch that, anyone listening or watching it's on screen now, and links will be in the description. So go over and watch that video for the it's amazing. Your 2020 and 2021 has been a challenging year for bands, especially with the fact that performances has sort of disappeared, and now things are sort of slowly coming back under control. And you mentioned you're going to do a release party, but also you did a residence with Christian from Gojira, right? So can you tell me a little bit about that experience and what you guys were working on with him to bring to the stage?
So yeah, basically we again just contacted him, and he was very keen to do all of that. I guess it's because all musicians are bored in times like these, and he saw that as a great opportunity to maybe witness some kind of a live show and get in the feeling of live shows again. So he was really enthusiastic during these 3 days.
I love that.
And the workflow was perfect. He's a very nice and humble guy. Really down to earth, which was really amazing, considering all four of us are big fans of the band.
Yeah, of course.
And what we worked on is basically our upcoming show. So we played the songs for him, and then he made like little remarks here and there, be it about the sound, because we worked there with our production teams in terms of sound and light as well. So he made like some little adjustments on the sound, on the lightings, on our stage presence, on the structure of our set also, and a lot of little details, and that were really insightful, I think, especially coming from someone who has such a huge experience on the subject.
Yeah, someone who has he has toured the world, and like you say, he knows every little detail. So there's probably tons to learn from someone like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, he confided to us that he had never done that before, but he couldn't really feel it. Actually, it was a premiere for him, but he still managed to give extremely insightful comments. He was also a really good teacher, I think.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's been able to do for you guys or help you guys with when you move on to doing some live performances. And we are coming up on sort of the end part of the interview, but I want to ask then, what are the upcoming plans, both with promotion of the album and also, of course, release party, going out, playing live. What are the options and opportunities for going forward with the release of the Impassable Horizon?
Well, we still have a lot of video content planned. The third music video on its way, and some more playthrough videos and tutorial videos like we did with the last singles.
Yeah.
So I think digital promotion is going to be very important still in this year. And as I mentioned, we also have this live stream event that will be announced soon. And apart from that, we are even going to play some real shows. Can you believe that? We're going to play our release party. As you said, it's going to be on July 3rd. So if you live in northeastern France, you can definitely attend that. We're going to play almost the entire album on that show, plus some older stuff. So it's going to be a very special event. And for later on, we have a couple more shows scheduled in France throughout the late summer, early fall. So that's a good start, playing France.
Yes.
And then we will see. We really hope to be able to get on some more tours, maybe to make it to North America whenever that's going to be possible. But for now, we can't be sure on anything.
No, of course.
Need to wait how things evolve and everything. But we have a good team working around the band, and that is going to be ready to jump in whenever things are going to get possible again.
Well, it's going to be interesting anyway for anyone, anywhere, to be able to watch your release show or your online, performance. And I'll make sure there are some links here now if the show has been announced by the time this video is out. So finally, I want to thank you so much, Vince, for being here on the Progtalks with me. Everyone who's watching and listening, the album will be out in a couple of days when this video releases. Until then, you should enjoy the singles that are out. Follow the band on their social medias. Watch them play on Twitch. And, the album is available to pre-order through Metal Blade. The guys have a Bandcamp and, of course, their own website, which is fractaluniverseband.com, right?
Exactly.
Yes, so support them, buy their shit, and listen to the amazing stuff they're creating. And of course, if you like using streaming services, I'm sure the album will be available on all of those as well. Thank you so much, Vince, for being on the Progtalks with me.
Well, thank you. It was a huge pleasure. And I hope the people listening will really enjoy the record. Maybe we'll meet on a show someday.
Well, that's my hope as well. I would love to see this album being performed live, of course. So, as always, people, thanks for listening and watching. Give us a like and a subscription if you enjoyed it. It helps us out a lot. And until next time, stay safe. Keep spreading that prog love. The Progtalks, produced by the Progspace. Main host, Rune Belsvik Reinås. Produced by Rune Belsvik Reinås, Vanessa and Matthias Kirsch. All graphics and animations by Vanessa Kirsch. Intro theme by Giuseppe Negri. Outro theme by Zach Munovitz. This was the Progtalks by the Progspace. See you in a week.